Sinanju. Is there a more stylish, sleek, over-the-top mobile suit in all of Mobile Suit Gundam? Possibly not. And back in 2008, Bandai absolutely blew minds with this model kit right here, the Master Grade Sinanju Mecha. It was huge, it looked amazing, it had technology in it the likes that had never been seen before. Both physically and technologically, it stood head and shoulders above anything that was released that year and before. Sadly, it had one massive fatal flaw. It broke to pieces. There's multiple joints, especially in the waist and the hips, that just fragmented to pieces. Definitely an Achilles heel or an Achilles waist. That's why 5 years later in 2013, Bandai released this, the Master Grade Sinanju OVA version. So if you've ever wondered what the difference between the white boxed Mecha is and the Master Grade regular arted box, which is the OVA version, well, the OVA version we're going to be taking a look at today has a full polystyrene build and was the first ever Master Grade kit to have a full polystyrene build. Before that, there was always ABS in a lot of the frame, and that was the critical issue in the Mecha version of Sinanju. The ABS just outright broke. I can attest to it, mine broke to pieces everywhere. So today I'm going to be giving the Master Grade Sinanju a second chance with the OVA version. Now there is another little bit of a flaw, or could be a massive flaw depending on your perspective, and that is this kit has 0 gold in it. There is no gold. So basically when you build this kit out of box, it will just be black all over the sleeves iconography. You will have to use the included stickers, water slide decals, or paint them in order to get the full look. Now I feel like at this point, a 1.5 of the OVA should come out just like we would have seen with the Sinanju Steinarde version Mecha. That had color separated sleeves, so here's hoping for the red Sinanju. But anyway, today we're going to be building it. If you want one of your own, I got mine through Buy, link is down there in the description. Now it's time to give the red Master Grade Sinanju a second chance. On busting open the box of the Master Grade Sinanju OVA, you get greeted to a whole ton of plastic. There is a lot to this build. This is a large Master Grade box with a lot of plastic inside. On top of that, once you bust out the manual, this is like a mini magazine. It's one of those ones that's stapled in the middle, and there's thousands upon thousands of pages. There's a lot of building to this kit right here. Around in the back of that, we got some images of what it will look like finished. I will mention that this is a painted version. They've got it all over the box too, because spoiler, the kit actually ends up looking like this. No gold. Bring your own gold, or use the stickers. Like I mentioned, there's absolutely tons and tons and tons of runners inside of this box. Now this is a little bit of an old school build with still a bit of a new feel. This was so technologically advanced for its time. You will never find another kit from 2008 with this much going on. It's got a lot of old school 2.0 Gundam to its build, which a lot of old school builders love because of the extra detail all over the frame and just the general intricacies and moving parts to the frame. When it comes to the outer armor, it's all basically big mono pieces, not too much in the lines of panel detailing or part separation. Color-wise, all we get really is red, black, grey, and a little bit of yellow. We've got some clear parts in here for the mono eye, lenses, effect parts for the weapons, and there's tons and tons of weapons to boot, and of course there are stickers included too. Speaking of which, we've got sticker style decals, so these are just the pluck and stick version. We've got some dry rub-on transfers. I haven't seen these in quite some time. I love these personally. When it comes to the gold in this kit, we've got sticker style, which is just basic stickers you stick on there, or we have water slide transfers, which you dip in water and apply, both of which sound very, very difficult personally, and I don't know if they'd look that good. Lastly, then we do have 4 springs inside of this because there's some interesting things going on down at the waist, but we're not going to start with the waist, we're going to start with the legs. So first up, this is what a leg looks like finished, and it's hard to believe this was a 2008 kit that this is based on. The runners are all 2008 mainly, because this is absolutely beautiful. It's big, it's curvy, it's got really nice thrusters all over the place. When you bend the knee, all the armor separates out nicely. We've got some moving piston action going on inside of that. On the side of the leg, we've got the thruster system that moves out, spins around, moves very nicely, and we do have some nice articulation at the ankle too. It's also nice to at least believe that this isn't going to break from movement like the Mecha version. I'll also mention one happy surprise with this kit. When you actually build the legs first, that's not what the manual says, but it's what I do all the time, you actually empty out a runner instantly in the build of a leg, which always makes me happy to get some of those runners off the desk early during a build. Save some space. So the build of the leg starts off down at the foot, and there's some nice building up of parts, multiple joints straight away for the ankle joint. You then start onto the foot itself, which is made out of 3 parts primarily, a bit of a heel, an interesting toe mechanism that has to flip back into itself, then you add in the ankle joint you just built, sandwich in place with another piece. We have a little bit of a piston round back. I do recommend detailing these things up maybe with some metallic paints while building it. I have to build this, well, the way it comes out of box for the review, sadly, or otherwise I would have done that. The toe builds up as 2 pieces, black armor on grey inner frame that then snaps onto the foot with a little bit of a C-clip and locks in place with a little section from underneath. Then the armor starts to build on with black and red plastic, layer upon layer upon layer, and it all holds on perfectly and looks incredible. Now with the foot done, you're jumping up to the thigh where we've got a nice sliding upper leg section, which is really 2.0 master grade feeling. In at the knee then, we're building up some little C-clip sections which attach together like so for the moving knee mechanism, and then this all starts to attach together. So as you can see, the upper leg has a moving sliding aspect, the lower leg has a moving sliding aspect too, all locked into the moving knee. Again, very 2.0 master grade. Down at the leg then we build up one of our first leg flaps for around back, an attachment point for one of the front leg flaps. You then have to balancing act another little bit of a thruster mechanism onto the back of the lower leg while you sandwich the 2 pieces of armor on. It can be a little bit tricky, but not too bad. Finally then, that is pretty much the leg frame finished, so we're starting to snap on some red armor. The red armor does mark up quite a bit when nipping it out, so I suggest nipping from a distance and using a glass file. Actually, at this point right here, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent because there was a point where I got to a seam line, not a seam line, a mold line in the actual back thruster that absolutely fucked me off when I built this straight build before. It's so bad, it's right down the middle and you will always see it from behind. So there's not much that actually makes me go, damn, I'm getting rid of this goddamn seam line. But if you do want to know how to get rid of a seam line, basically you need to hit it with high grit sandpaper just like so. Then you hit it with lower grits, so you're going 200, 400, 600. I went as far as 1200. I recommend Gun Primer's tools, they are fantastic. Link in the description. And then finally, once I got as far as 1200 grit, I grabbed both balancers, that's the grey one and the white one from Gun Primer, because you'll notice that it's a little bit scuffed and has a completely different sort of almost matte texture to the actual shiny Sinanju itself. You actually just buff up the parts with these particular balancers. You do one side, then the other, then you go on to the white one side, then the other, and in the end you'll get an absolutely fantastically clean, shiny, scratchless surface, and these tools always blow my mind. I don't recommend them half enough. I highly recommend them, like right now. The glass file is great as well for taking away knobs without leaving a single mark, because otherwise you will get marks. I got lazy in some places. But anyway, now you start slapping on some more red armor, front and back. There's some yellow detailing popping in, some nice under red detailing here too, underneath the knee segment. Now I will mention, this kit doesn't have as much separated parts as you would see in a modern kit per se, but it's all been done so intelligently, it works out so nicely. What actually changes the build between the left and the right leg comes from here on out, so they are a little bit on the asymmetrical side. More red armor builds onto the ankle, the front, and it is towards the side of the leg where you're going to pop on that moving large thruster segment that really differentiates them. We've got a little bit of a double C-clip joint inside of the side of the leg. On the other side, you just cover up that little attachment point with a little grey part. Layer up tons and tons of armor, and I would recommend when you're adding these black sections on to actually detail these, sticker them up or paint them up as you're going. Again, I'm doing this for a review, so I'll have to pull it all off later in order to paint them. Finally, then you build up the big thruster for the side of the leg, which has 3 verniers in it. Simple build. Very effective though. Then you attach that, the waist joint, which is 3 simple pieces, the hip joint, which is 3 simple pieces, and the foot on just like so. Again, a very, very nice build, and so hard to believe this was a kit designed in 2008, almost 20 years ago, and it's still a masterpiece when it comes to everything but the lack of gold. So moving up the body of the Sinanju now to the waist, and this is what it looks like complete. Some wild aspects to it, especially the little spring-loaded pipe segments which are on the side which attach the front to the rear skirting. This does kind of play a little bit with the articulation a little bit, making it a bit bouncy, but overall I never find it too much of a hassle. They're popping off right now because I haven't pushed them all the way in, because like I said, I'm going to be disassembling it later in order to paint the gold, so I don't want to push these in too far. Now I will mention there are these little parts for the piping on Sinanju. You have to build about, I think it's 16 and 16 of these for a total of 32. That is a lot of cutting out. Now, before in the past, I would have just cut them out and that would have done me, but for this review, I wanted to clean them up a little bit, and this is where I recommend Gun Primer's glass file yet again. I just pop this onto a file, hit it both sides with this, and you don't have to mess around too much. It's a clean job every single time. Now, I will also mention that I think I've had this particular glass file for about, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years, and it's still going strong. So again, highly recommended. Anyway, when it comes to the build of this waist, first up we start building up these little segments around back for the attachment point for the weapons around on the rear skirting. You've got yourself a little bit of a grabby mouth mechanism here. Then you grab onto the large side aspects of the waist. You pop these in here. These are for the rotating, or should I say sliding, hip mechanism. Then you throw that little mouth grabby section into the back just like so. It has some nice articulation, and sandwich it into position with the other hip side. Then you lock this in from above with this part, which is a rig for holding on to all the skirting armors. Red armor from front, back. A little bit of yellow vent detailing underneath, locked in with a bit of red armor. Then we get onto the skirting armors. The front skirting armor is made up of 5 pieces, which is quite impressive. Red front, red back. We've got a black section, which you will have to gold detail. A grey back on it to give that double layered, actually armored technical feel. And finally you end it off with a little bit of a yellow vent on the bottom side. You jump around to the back skirtings, similar again. You add a bit of red in underneath for a vent. Nice, detailed, heavy grey armored section for underneath. And then around on the other side, this is a little bit of a tricky bit to get in, this little bit of a flap, because it's just a flap, and then that locks in with a black piece, just like so. And it's at this point then you get into the zany part. You need to take this little spring right here and attach it onto the rear skirting. I recommend rotating this clockwise while actually pushing it on. This actually opens the spring up and allows it to attach a whole lot easier. Then you have to add on 8, and I repeat, 8 of these little pipe sections onto each side. Now, I've seen recommended online use 9, not 8, if you don't want any spring gaps, which I'll tell you about in a second. Anyway, once you have that done, you pop the back skirting on, the front skirting on like so, and then you bend that springy wire around to the front and lock it in like so. Now, you'll see there is some little gaps between these where you can see the spring. Some people recommend putting 9 of these segments on in order to not get that weird being able to see into the spring thing. I'm just going to do it the way Bandai tells me to do it, so that's what I did. And there we go. That is the waist complete with fun, springy little pipe bits, which actually work out quite well. Also, I will mention be careful when attaching the legs on, because they actually attach on with a kind of clicking attachment method. So you push them in until they click into position. Sometimes some parts on this kit don't line up very well. You need to be very careful, and you can stress some aspects. So be careful while popping these in, because I've had the whole section break while pushing them in before on a previous kit. So now moving on up to the torso, and this is what I feel definitely suffers the most from having a lack of gold, because there's so much nice detail there that does go well ungoldified. On top of that, we do have an opening cockpit hatch, so you can see into full frontal himself with 2, actually 3 moving aspects to it. The shoulders in here are very nicely designed too. They move very well, a lot of range of motion, and there's an ab crunch too, but you can't really get to it when the body is not attached to the bod. Well, the legs. Not the body to the body, the body to the legs. With the build of this, you start at the very, very core, which is the cockpit seat and full frontal himself. Full frontal slots on in just like this. I would recommend painting your pilot figure, of course. I didn't paint mine. You then slide the console section in front just like so, and then it attaches into the Psycho Frame cockpit back section, which is in a nice clear green, and the front part then pops on just like so. Next up, we're going to be working on the ab crunch, which is good and sturdy. 2 sections attach onto a simple joint just like so. The side-to-side pivot then comes in from the back. This then attaches into a second joint for the ab crunch, which are these 2 parts then, which are locked together by a rear section, which is very, very unique. Next up, you're going to be adding some parts on for the cockpit. Again, these need, well, gold detailing and stickers. They attach right onto the front just like so. Once those are all attached on, you bring the Psycho Frame cockpit down into the actual body, and that locks into position with the part we just finished putting together. Next up, we've got the arm joints. Again, robust, nice range of motion. Just 2 sections that attach together just like so, and they pop down from the top into the upper body, where they're locked into position with this part you put together with a moving cockpit upper section part. Once that's in, you pop it down on top of them. Next up then, we've got the final piece of the cockpit section. It attaches in just from the front like so, simple as. Around the back, we've got the first part of the next set of pipey bits, you attach that into the grey section like so. This attaches into the black corset section of the main body armor, which slides up from below like a cup on like so. Now it's time to get fun. This is one of the parts that always broke on my older Sazabi. Basically, these little twiggy bits completely broke. Thankfully, the spring on the outside kind of held it together. So you do cuff the spring on over these plastic sections and do what we did before, which is add on 8 of these tiny little pipe segments per half. So that is quite a few, and it can be a little bit awkward, especially the balancing act when you need to attach these onto the rear of the waist of Sazabi. So when you pop this onto the back, these can flick off, which is a little bit annoying, but once you get them on, they stay on, thankfully. This all slots in, a bit of red back armor. You build the neck out of 2 sections, so it's a C-clip upper top, ball joint on the bottom, attaches into a cuff, and down into the body. Lastly then, it's just 2 armor sections attached onto the side in red, followed by the 2 collar sections onto either side of where the head will go. Again, more gold needed here. It's best to do it right now while you're building it, than leaving it till later when it'll be a pain in the ass. Like, it's going to be a pain in the ass for me. Either way though, beautiful looking body, missing some gold. So when it comes to the arm, quite similar to what we would have seen with a lot of 2.0s from back in those days, the hands are definitely a whole lot better. We've got a nice elbow joint with those moving pistons inside of it, very Gundam 2.0. And when it comes to the shoulder armor is nice too. We've got a lot of movement on here, this moving little section as well, which gave me a little bit of trouble, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, when it does come to the build of the arm, the shoulder is that usual 3-point joint that we get in the shoulders and the hips. You jump straight on down to the cuff aspect, which is made of 2 sandwiching grey sections, sandwiched from the other side then by the black cuff sections, again missing the gold of course. Now we get on to the actual meat of the arm. The elbow joint is pretty much the 2.0 Gundam elbow joint. That is, you have 2 parts, the upper part and the lower part, sandwiched by 2 parts for the elbow, and then you add on an upper little kind of sliding piston mechanism and a lower sliding piston mechanism, both of which are so impressive even to me so many years later. Now you have to add on some thickening segments in grey to the sides of the arm. These cover up the pistons but still allow them to slide. We've got armor for the upper bicep, that's red front and back. Some pipes are on the side of the forearm, a red plate which attaches on to that. Now we get onto one of the coolest aspects about the Sinanju's arm. That of course is the moving armor section for the beam sabers. This is a big grey section into a big red section, and we've got a little bit of an attachment point which attaches in from underneath to give it its articulation. Before we attach this onto the arm, you have to add some yellow vent detailing, some red plates onto the side, and then it attaches in just like so. Very, very nicely with a simple 2-point movement that just works so well. Next up in here, we do have the hands. These are nice hands and have aged better than a lot of other hands out there when it comes to actual articulated hands. We've got a wrist joint attaches on. The fingers all attach on into the main body of the hand. That's an independent thumb, a jointed independent index finger, and jointed 3 fingers together, which you can cut to separate if you want, but I don't recommend it because it gets a little bit messy. Then you slap the back of the hand on and you're done. It's a nice little posable hand that works well and it's easy to clean up. Finally then you put the arm together, so that is the shoulder joint into the upper arm, the sleeves iconography sleeve section, followed by the hand itself. Beautiful. The shoulders in this kit are a separate unit to the actual arm itself. You start off with a big central aspect which attaches into the shoulder cuff. A bit of red armor attaches from above, red armor sections from the sides, a huge red armor section from above, which you attach in 4 tiny little slotting yellow detail sections which actually lock these parts into position. Finally then we've got a little bit of a flap aspect which does have some verniers on it. And this is the only thing I had some issue with. Attaching the spikes onto this little segment right here was just not working out. No matter how much I pushed, they just wouldn't go the whole way on. So they're a little bit sticky outy compared to the way they're meant to look. Anyway, we've got a little bit of an arm section which attaches on from underneath that you use with some of the accessories. Then you just attach that into the underside of the shoulder. Attach the shoulder onto the body, and then pop on the arms like so. So as you can see, Sinanju coming together with a lot of gold I'm going to have to paint later. Jumping around to the backpack now, and this is one of the things that really does show that when it came to the unicorn designs, they were masterpieces of mecha design. This is so nice, and makes me sad with that, well, that we never saw a master grade Rosen Zulu or Kshatriya. Anyway, lots of moving parts around here, a cool little opening mechanism, and some nice fuel tanks too. When it comes to the build of this, you start off with the fuel packs. That is a ball joint in grey, the rest is just 3 parts in white, 2 halves, and a cap. Jump into the backpack straight away with some huge verniers onto this section here, which is made out of two parts that attach together. Red armor from above, red armor from below. We have to build these side segments for attaching on the fuel tanks. It's just two pieces that attach together, a simple peg attachment onto the main body of this. And then we get onto the actual thrusters themselves, which is, again, master grade in its perfection. It's simple, intricate, but to the point and gets it done perfectly. We've got a moving joint on the bottom, an in and out section for the verniers round back. You then attach in another section which knits together with the parts we just designed to actually give you an in and out moving mechanism that flares out the upper and lower armored sections of the verniers, which just works so simply and so well. This locks in with a grey section from the side. You then slide in this red section here. This is the red section I mentioned earlier on that has a wicked wicked mold line down the side of it. Now, there's rarely mold lines that are so bad that I have to get rid of them, but this one right here was awful. It looks so much better if you just actually remove these and buff it up to be as shiny as the rest of the actual kit itself. Then you just pop on some verniers, the nice white section of a cuff at the end of it, as well as the upper and lower armor. Finally, then you attach this little piece on to attach it onto the main body, and then you just do that. The two fuel tanks and the two wing binders just attach all together like so, and then onto the back of the Sinanju, not in a usual kind of way. You actually attach it from behind in the way, and then slide it down so it locks into position. Last up then, when it comes to the actual mecha itself, is the head. Again, absolute poetry in plastic right here. It's actually quite simple, has a nice little mechanism inside of it, and just looks perfect out of box. Absolutely stunning. When it comes to the head, first off, you attach the clear section for the mono eye onto this little segment right here. That pops down, upside down into the head because it is the mono eye. This has a couple of little kind of cog teeth sticking out of it because the next section you attach in from above cog teeths into these. So basically this is a head that turns its mono eye when you turn the head side to side. Awesome. From there, it's literally front armor with the pegs actually making up the inside of the head Vulcans, side armor, a little pipe grey section from below, then the top of the head armor and the actual blade antenna. That's simple, yet what you get as payoff is huge. It looks so good, has a moving mono eye which has a mechanism inside of it, and again, so simple a build. Pops on like so, looks beautiful. There it is. That is the master grade Sinanju OVA finished, and again essentially exactly the same as the Verka version, but with less likely to break plastic in it. Now this is almost only about, I would say, 2/3 the way through the build, maybe 3/4 of the way, because this thing has an absolute armory that we might as well get built. So first off, when it comes to the weapons in here is the beam rifle. Now Bandai went all out with these. We've got a little bit of a lens which pops into the front, or should I say the rear section of the sight. We've got a little bit of a wire that attaches into that. The front section of the sight, again, another lens, two pieces. This attaches down into a little section which will attach it onto the rifle when the rifle is done. When it comes to the rifle, you've got one half, you attach in a rear segment, a front segment, and then the second half to actually slap this together. The way this is so part separated means you can actually detail this up nicely with some metallic colors or something like that while you build, because out of box it does look a little bit on the plain side, being so much grey with so many, well, separate little parts. We've got parts around back, front, sight, you attach on the main sights up top, and then a little bit of a locking jaw mechanism underneath. This is a very shiny plastic out of box, and again does look a little bit plain in grey, so detailing and top coating will make this really shine. Next up in here is the shield, which is quite on the simple side, really. We've got a big old section of grey, you pop on a long section of red, two upper sections of red armor, followed by the big black plate, which of course, again, is missing the gold details on it, so you'll need to do a lot of detailing or stickering on this right here. Finally, on the other side, we do have the various attachment parts. One has two moving aspects to it for the upper half, for the upper aspect, and the lower one then is just one simple section which attaches in like so for storing some of the weapons. The weapons in questions are the beam axes. These are very simple. They're just made out of 4 grey pieces a piece. They just attach together just like so. Next up in here we've got the bazooka, which was not included, I will mention, with the Verka kit. It was sold separately from that in a magazine if I'm not mistaken. However, it is included with this kit, and again, very, very detailed. You build up the sight segment up top made out of 7 segments, including a moving handle. Then you go down to the body of the bazooka. You've got the rear ammo locking section around back with a sliding mechanism, which does mean you kind of have to balance it in position when attaching the two side aspects on. You grab the barrel, Slide this little cuff down, a second cuff pops on like so, a locking mechanism from underneath which prevents those cuffs from falling off, and then you just attach this front segment on. We've got a little bit of a sight on the side, a little bit of a rail clip section which attaches from below, another handle builds up of 2 sections, and then you just pop the barrel on into the main body, attach the sight rig down from above, and a little handle in from underneath. Now you do have to build the missiles as well. This is 3 sections which attach together just like so, and this slides into the nice opening mechanism around in the back of the bazooka. I remember back in the day, this was one of the most intense, over-the-top, master-grade Gundam weapons available. Still cool to this day too. Lastly then is the awesome little grenade launcher which can be used with the shield or the rifle. This is just made of 4 sections and just attaches together, just like so. So there we go, there is the Master Grade Sinanju OVA complete, just built out of box with nothing extra done whatsoever. It does look absolutely phenomenal, but of course, your eyes immediately dart towards where, well, all the gold is missing and where it should be. This has always been for me the most disappointing aspect about the Master Grade Sinanju. Well, the Verka one just broke to pieces on me, so I'm assuming this one will do a whole lot better. Either way though, if you ignore that gold aspect, this looks phenomenal. Technically at its core, this is an impressive beast. Even almost 20 years later, this thing impresses. It looks fantastic, the angles are just right, the curves look great. Essentially, it is the perfect Sinanju kit if, well, it just had the gold. That's why I'm surprised at this point Bandai hasn't actually released a 1.5, which is this exact kit, just with new black and gold pieces for where, well, it's lacking the gold. Kind of the way we got the new color separation on the narrative version of Sinanju Stein, the Verka version of that. Again, Sinanjus can get a little bit on the confusing side because the amount of releases with little bits of a tweak here and there, but this is definitely a kit that needs that little bit of a tweak. Anyway, if you don't mind painting in the details yourself, absolutely go to town on this. It's a perfect foundation and really, really nice. Anyway, I'm going to be painting the gold on it, that's why I'm doing a build video of this separate to the actual review. So in the meantime, I'm going to be getting painting. If you want one of these of your own, like I mentioned, I got mine through Bai, link is down there in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla builds, and I'll see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhardt, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.